Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. As I'm getting older and my social circle expands, I've noticed, I don't want to call it a trend necessarily, but it's definitely becoming more and more prominent, not only of single women choosing to raise the child on their own, but more significantly in choosing not to pursue child support from the father. And I'm using father in a very loose term. The term they usually use is sperm donor. Now, I'm not here to evaluate what happened during the relationship or at the end of the relationship. I'm only interested in the decision. Because we hear all the times about, you know, custodial parents trying to squeeze the other one dry for every bit of money that they have, and people skipping out on paying child support. Yeah, I know. I literally wrote the book on it. Literally, link will be in the description. But it's curious to me that in modern times, when everything's so expensive, you wouldn't want to have some sort of monetary support. There's plenty of fathers, and I'm using that word meaning sperm donor, that are happy to have nothing to do with their kid, whether that be they're going to give you money to go away or whether they just want to disappear. It's a good relation for a lot. There are some that want to be involved, and that's a story for another time. I'm just talking about the parental figures, generally female, generally mothers, who want their child and nothing more to do with the system. Now, again, I literally wrote the book on this. I know how frustrating the system is, how ridiculously unfair it is to both sides. Both sides. Little personal anecdote. My ex and I split apart, and I'm not going to call it the most amicable split up, but it was far from hostile. And about a month went by. She gave me time to settle down and said, we should think about child support. And we agreed on a figure. I think it was $400, something like that. And 400 a month, which turned out to actually be over what was recommended. But that's what we agreed on, and that's what I paid her. And then 5 years later, the social workers, because I'm not going to name the agency, I name it already. If you buy the book, you'll find out what I'm talking about. They came along and decided, oh, you owe 5 years in back child support. And it took me a full year to fight it. And while I was doing that, I had to pay the money to them, and they weren't releasing it to my ex because they hadn't, closed down the case yet. So literally nobody got a good deal of that situation. And there's people, they love their litigation. You can have a lawyer with you, but I did everything on my own. Not because I'm smart. No, it's because I like reading laws and statutes and becoming educated. And eventually I got a book out of it. So I understand why some mothers, I'm sorry if I'm offending you, because some mothers do the same thing to the obligatory parent, the one with the actual custody. And I just don't want to break this into mothers and fathers, but I'm going to have to for simplicity because I can't go through a 5-minute explanation whenever I refer to them. Mothers and fathers equally get screwed in equal roles. So mothers walking away from the system is quite a statement. As I say in my book, the success rate of these organizations is painfully low. If they were debt collectors, they would not be in business. Heck, if they were a casino, they wouldn't be in business. And they have a monopoly on power. Now, that's one of the reasons that mothers don't want to get involved as custodial parents in a fight that could take months, years, or even the rest of that child's um, life until they turn 18 and beyond. Heck, when I was in the middle of this, my boss got served uh, child support papers, and this was something from like 20 years before. And he had already paid everything, and they had just suddenly opened up the case. I don't know whether they just computerized it because his case was pretty old. But yeah, that's not the focus of this. We're looking at why women do not want to collect child support. Raising a kid's expensive. Diapers, bottles, school supplies. There's not a day that comes by that the school isn't asking us for money for something. And you know what? It's hard to say no because, hey, I've been a kid, and when you're the only kid in the class that doesn't have their slice of pizza that day, even if the other kids don't say anything, you know. You know. So, on the one hand, these mothers are thinking about the terrible inconvenience about going through the court system. And on the other hand, they're gaining an emotional high ground. Oh, yes, 10 years later you want to see the kid? Well, you've contributed nothing. And if we go to court, I can honestly say you've contributed nothing. You were out busy frolicking about, doing whatever you're going to do. And, we've been perfectly self sufficient without you. Our kid doesn't need you in their life. We've established this. It's an emotional high ground. There's also some legal precedent in there that you don't contribute anything, you don't get anything out of it. It's one of the things that child support agencies use is, oh, if you haven't been paying, well, we're going to restrict your access to the kid. And mothers are just using the same basic logic and applying it to their situation. If it goes to court, yeah, they're going to have to fight it. But a lot of fathers who've left for 10 years or whatever aren't going to want to fight to see their offspring. They'll ask, but if it turns difficult, they can do it. And most importantly, the mothers don't want contact with that person, even so far as a paycheck. They don't want that chapter of their life closed, over, done with. And it's costing them money, but that money is worth it to these women, primary caregivers. It's worth it to them because we've all heard of the concept of blood money. Well, this isn't quite blood money, but at the same token, it's that idea that somehow dirty. It's coming from an unclean source. In ancient Rome, I think it was Titus went to his father and complained that his father put a tax on urinals. And his father tossed him a coin. How does the coin smell? And Titus says it smells like a coin. He said, funny, it came from the urinals. And that's a concept that's been lost. Yes, there's greedy people that don't care where they get their money, but there's also a lot of people who have ethics and standards and values they hold themselves to. And in taking care of their child, they think any, what am I going to call this, a taint from the father, generally, is going to transfer to the child. Now, this may sound silly, but again, we're talking about emotions, and parental emotions are among the strongest emotions possible. It's your child. You've invested time, money, effort, everything into this child. You want it to be your child. And I see this, it's not brutally common. And I'm definitely not out here holding up a shingle for, family services to be subsidized because they don't have enough cases. Heck no. Reform, yes, but bailed out, heck no. Do your job, and you'll actually have plenty of money. But this is a movement I think we need to take serious consideration of. Yes, there's a lot of what ifs. Like if a custodial parent perishes somehow, it's a very difficult thing for the courts to know what to do. If a father figure is determined enough, or a mother figure, then there are options open for them. And anything is possible if you have the money, the time, and the resources. But the purpose of this show is just mostly to make people aware of it, because it sounds strange at first that somebody wouldn't go after the other parent for what they're owed. Now, again, we're leaving aside the mothers that don't spend anything on their children and have a six-pack a day smoking habit, shoot drugs up in front of their kids and are pestering the father caregiver to send more money. We're not looking at well, we are kind of looking at the fathers that do drop and run, but they're not even being pursued. And unlike me, and I was reasonable, they're just happy to be free of their obligation, not knowing that that bill builds up. That money doesn't go away. And if your child is interested in coming after you at whatever age, guess what? You're going to have to make restitution. And maybe that's the purpose of these mothers doing that. They don't have the time or the energy or the will to be in a hearing with that other person, but they're willing to support their child to get what they want. After all, they've already had the relationship with that person, and, you know, it's a reasonable thing for a parent to support. I don't know. What do you think? We can have a discussion down in the comments. Again, wrote the book on family services and how they screw over both the payor and the payee, and how they get away with such a low success rate. And it's not just a local thing, it's a North America thing. I didn't want to include European or South American statistics. I just wanted the USA and Canada, who have a relatively decent court system and a relatively decent government order. I didn't feel it was fair to compare anything other than two relatively similar situations. And yeah, read up on that and you might learn why some of these women, primary caregivers, are choosing to go their own way. With that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share. Sharing is caring. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to click the notifications icon down below. And we hope you have a fantastic day.